Hello and welcome to Royale without cheese, our bi-weekly podcast in which we discuss both the classic and the unknown of Hollywood and foreign cinema from the then and now. We are your hosts, me, Miguel Aido, Tomás Ferreira,
Hey, party people.
and Leonardo Miranda.
Here I am.
Three filmmakers in an informal dialogue with a film review each episode. As part of our festivity, reviews in both English and Portuguese will be available for different listeners. Today's episode will be in English, and we'll be having a go at Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused. Portuguese speakers can head to the Portuguese labeled content section. Now, sit back and hope you enjoy.
Hell yeah.
Hey man, do you have a joint?
No, not on me. You like
If you did.
Alright.
It wasn't his first role. I think it was.
Yeah, and at the same time, it was Ben Affleck's first role. I think it's his first credited film.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I was not expecting Ben Affleck.
Me neither. I did not realize until the credits. I didn't even.
What?
Yeah, I didn't
Really?
I didn't recognize him at all.
Oh wow, I recognize him.
I was like, this guy's really good at being an asshole. I like it. And then, it's Ben Affleck. No.
Of course, he's so skillful. Sorry, Ben. I know we've been hurting you since
But
last
the offer
episode.
still stands, man. Bernard, we would love to have you on the show.
Of course,
One
of
of
course. And don't forget, read our scripts and yeah. So thoughts on Dazed and Confused? Who wants to start?
You can start. You didn't love it, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
What, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably
Oh,
you're
yeah,
the one
well,
of us who liked it
Yeah,
the less.
I
maybe.
didn't. Well, I found it to be just all right. You know, I
Alright.
think I found it to be all right. You know, because the beginning, I think it's to start talking about Dazed and Confused. I could only really evaluate it and assess it through watching some other film that was also coming of age and was concerned with the same kind of ideas that are explored in the film, which is majorly about the last day of high school and going out into the unknown, going out into college. And because really, as I was watching the film, I could only think about other films. I was thinking about The Last Picture Show. I was thinking about American Graffiti. I was thinking about later films of Linklater, specifically Boyhood, because for sure the beginning is to me the most interesting part of the film, and you could make a case for the film being just an ode to teenage silliness and irreverence. But all in all, I think that beyond that, I don't think that, to put it simply, the film really does much in exploration of the devices that used to portray the teenage jungle world and the consequences and the contradictions of teenage life. I think, for example, I watched American Graffiti recently, which is exact same plot. You know, it's the same idea of, you know, last day in high school. What do you do? Do you want to go or not? Do you want to go to college, etc. And it very much functions in similar ways because you have same devices. You have these identifiable elements of teenage affirmation and life. You know, you have the use of cars, you have the prom. You don't have the weed yet, but the thing is, they are a lot more fleshed out and explored. You know, in American Graffiti, the cars are very much part of the language of how teenagers, you know, establish themselves and how they talk. You know, they talk inside cars as they are driving constantly in American Graffiti. I mean, there's something. Just the element is stretched out and explored furthermore, and it's you know, also a macho man affirmation because they are constantly racing against you know, lights on the streets. And you have the prom, and there's a very particular scene in I'm now talking about American Graffiti, but this is in the way of saying what lacks in Dazed and Confused. You also have a little prom moment in Dazed and Confused, but it's very briefly seen. You see much more of the teenage awkwardness and what is a teenage love relationship in a specific prom scene in American Graffiti, because it's about a couple that is about to be torn apart, a couple in which the guy is Ron Howard, the director, because he was an actor back then.
The
so
Happy
Ron Howard
Days,
acts in the film.
He's
very
always
funny.
acted, Ron Howard.
I don't see him nowadays. doing
Nowadays,
anything.
not as much.
Yeah.
No,
But he was
you
a
know,
big actor. Like
he
sitcoms.
was in a series as well.
Yeah, Happy Days.
Happy
The
Days,
Fonz.
yes.
Arrested Development as well.
Oh yeah, the narrator.
And acting too.
And
The
acting,
guy is
yeah.
funky. Just his voice. What was it? I blew myself. I just remember a lot. You really should be careful with the words. All right, now we're going to Arrested Development.
It's an illusion, Michael.
But yeah, returning to Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, well, yeah, American Graffiti for a start has to compare it. I was there in the prom, and I think that there's also a very brief prom scene, but everything is kind of picked up and then shoved away in Dazed and Confused. Why do I really love the beginning? The beginning is interesting, has to explore this sense of the American high school in the way of showing, well, in how the system works in terms of the process of humiliating earlier students. This is a freshman. It feels like an organized crime, in American schools. And I really think, like, I'm watching the film in the beginning of the setup of the film, and I'm thinking, how much of this is Richard Linklater having a go, or having liberty at portraying this organized crime, this system of humiliating the youngsters, the freshmen. And how much of this is really true, is really reality, actually happens, because this is crazy. We will never have this. It's insane. It's American listeners out there, it's insane. Okay, guys. Like,
I don't think they do that anymore, but I
don't think so. Yeah,
I don't know if they did, but like, I don't totally like discredit.
Let's name it. Let's name it, because you have these.
To be honest,
senior
I've seen
girls.
so many films that do that I'm starting to believe it's true.
Yeah, gotta be some truth to it.
It's this whole choreography where, in respect of the music, for example, you are constantly bombed with 70s music or 70s style music with this groovy feel. And I think the interesting thing about it is that in the setup it works on an opposite pole to what the scene is actually showing you, because it's constant humiliation. You have the senior girls putting this what do you call for babies?
I don't know.
This
the baby thing that they put.
The baby thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know.
The baby sucky.
Yeah.
Search it up.
I'm searching.
Yeah. I'm searching. You're hearing it. Miguel is typing. There you go.
No, but carry on. It's gonna take some time.
The baby sucky. It's the term I'm using. It's put on these freshman girls, or you have the boys using the cars, has this narrative device to show kind of their bravado and everything, going around other kids, and it's very funny. And in that respect, also another element that I like is that all the adults are kind of in on the joke. They are in on the system that I'm describing here, because you have Ben Affleck arriving at some poor kid's house ready to spank him, and then the mother comes out with a fucking shotgun, and it's like, what the fuck? That made me laugh a lot, because
it's a pacifier. The word is pacifier.
Pacifier. Yes.
Oh,
pacifier,
it's the Vin Diesel film. That, you know that film? Okay, no.
No, I don't. Okay, we'll pick up on that.
Right.
We'll pick up on that. And the adults are constantly on a joke, which I find interesting. Hesper describing this American system, or this organized crime that is the humiliation of the freshmen and the bullying. Yeah, it is very much. It feels like an organized crime because it's so relentless and horrible. Like, then there's a scene which it's with the fast cut editing and what they do to these kids, which is basically throw condiments and ketchup over the girls and make them do squats, constantly going up and down. Air raid, like they say this. It's horrible, But on the opposite side, you have, like I was saying, the music acting like this joyful thing, this cheerful thing. Because on the other hand, the freshman girls are actually accepting to do this, and it's all very jolly. So it feels like, on the other hand, a game that is positive, and you should do it because at the end you earn respect. So it's very perverted thing, and the perverted, well, the game, the game is this game is very perverted because it's the humiliation is so powerful and out there, and yet these girls are accepting this, and just smiling and benevolent about it, and it's all good, because, and in the end you do show the payoff. You see the kid going to the parties, going and have the beer, but beyond the point of the party that never actually happens at the house of that other guy, I don't think that it really goes much further in terms of character growth, or in really on another stance, if not in character growth, really exploring more of the atmosphere of the environment. I think the film for me comes at a stale point. And sure, it still has a charm, it's still interesting in certain ways of uh, how these teens interrelate with themselves, but it becomes a bit lazy in expressing really the consequences and the contradictions of the teenage power or teenage way of life jungle. Whereas I think that American Graffiti picks up the same elements: the prom, the cars, um, the uh, the radio, for example, the use of parallel story. There's a real exploration of each character's path, because in American Graffiti you also have this parallel story scenario of following different characters, but you see how these different characters, even if they may be archetypal or representative of different groups, they change and their decisions shift and they end up going through different places. And also the effort of each film, American Graffiti and Dazed and Confused, to portray another time is different. I think Dazed and Confused, to me, if you didn't tell me that was 70s, I would believe it was a 90s film about 90s kids. I do not believe that 70s. I don't know exactly why. I think I would have to watch it a second or third time, but there's a sensibility about it that really feels like it's like I'm watching something of today's times or 90s. It's so it's so near to me that I do not believe that these kids. I was looking at, the.
There are pretty a lot of elements that indicate it's the 70s.
Oh yes, there are elements that's the thing. There are elements that indicate it's the 70s, but it's just hinting. The whole film is hinting. It doesn't really explore. It doesn't really go in depth. I think that there are more mature films of Linklater. I'm thinking
Sure.
about Boyhood, that are concerned with the silliness, the joyfulness of teenage life, but also do go into, also because I think it's one of his first films. But and so in Boyhood, you really go much deeper into. There's this side, but there's also this other side. The payoff, the hard side of teenage life, and I don't really feel it so much in this one. And American Graffiti is a film that is of the 70s, trying to portray the 60s. So it's really close to each other, these different decades, and you really feel
60s.
it.
Isn't it the
Yeah,
50s? I thought it was the 50s.
It's like it's the point of, it's a turning point. It's like 50s to 60s. But it's early 60s, I think, really, in terms of narrative aspect. But
Right. So can I just
go ahead.
because okay, so you've said a lot of things.
Yeah.
Some I don't really
Agree with.
Yeah, completely. I think okay, let's go back. You said you started
Alright,
with the
let's go
whole
back.
the whole comparison with American Graffiti.
Yeah.
What I think is you saw American Graffiti recently, and it was like this mind-blowing event.
Yeah. Oh
I
my
think
god.
it's not completely fair to compare the two, because I mean this film Dazed and Confused is purposefully kind of structurally chaotic. I mean, or rather, it has no structure. I mean, it's like a set of a diary. It's an entry in a diary. You get into this story, and you're with this characters 24 hours, and then you leave. So it's kind of a unique experience in that sense. And you said in American Graffiti they talk a lot in cars. I mean,
they talk a lot on cars as well in this film. So
I think sure, but I always feel like American Graffiti goes to more corners. You see, but that's me. I haven't seen it.
I do understand what you mean. But um, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I have to look at this film kind of independently. Because it's so different plot wise. I mean, for example, even in terms of acting, you have kind of these non-actors. If you exclude, McConaughey and Ben Affleck, a lot of these performances are very sort of non-actor-ish
I mean,
performances.
I think that they are all actors. I haven't. That's actually
Even
we
if
have
they
talked
are,
about this
their
before.
performances are non-acting sort of performances.
They're not stars. Like,
Yeah, they're not stars.
No,
I
no,
mean,
yeah.
it reminds me of the acting of Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, because well, that's an
Even
interesting thing.
even themes wise, it's a bit close. Even though, I mean, if I gotta be honest, the one film I remembered when I watched Dazed and Confused was Elephant by Gus Van Sant, which is very different thematically, but I mean, in plot wise, not plot wise, structurally, I mean, in terms of this one day in a high school with different kids, and we go alternatively between them, it reminded me of that film. Um, but in any case, I think this film has a lot of documentary-ish undertones, and you have to look at I think through that prism of what is a documentary and what is being told in this specific day, which obviously because it's one day means that the characters aren't really going to develop like insanely. I mean, it's just small changes here and there because of what is happening in this day. The kid suddenly hanging out with the seniors, and then at night all these things happening to them, and the kid finally kisses the girl and whatever. I mean, okay, small things happen, but you can't really expect major changes in their characters.
I think Linklater does a great job for me as I was watching. I was like, of showing how high school kids are, just fucking idiots. A lot of it's like, I mean, yeah, they're not that profound. We're not.
That's true.
It's just yeah, they're just idiots. Like, I get the appeal of an American Graffiti. Probably I haven't watched it. Showing that, yeah, there's more. They have a lot more going on. Maybe they're more like they're starting this middle period where they don't know how their future is gonna be, and they're feeling conflicted, whatever, right? And there's a hint of that in this film, but I think at most of the time he's just showing like a bunch of dumb kids being dumb, and like how unspecial and like like how most of this doesn't matter. It's just it's a day in the life, and you see as close as possible a film can show as.
Even that sort of side thing with the coach and the guys signing the paper and thinking about the future, it almost
very
seems like a
light.
tease.
Yeah.
It's like a tease of something of what another film might do that has an impact. But in this film, it's just so to the side and superficial. Like, okay, just whatever you sign, you don't sign. The coach cares or not cares. It's just a bit there, and that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't really. Yeah, it's just hints of problems, and I get that might be something that people dislike about the film. Like Tomás, I completely understand that. Like, there isn't really a conflict. That's just there's little hints that there's a problem there, which is the guys depend on the quarterback for their future. Like, if he says, "Oh, I don't want to be a football player anymore," like he fucks them up.
I'm not specifically demanding that there is a neat and clear conflict and an arrival at the solution, because even American Graffiti is very loose in that respect. You have these parallel stories, and it has this le flaneur respect. They are wandering through the night. Of course, that they are, like you say, there's a difference in terms of the dialogue acting. In Dazed and Confused and American Graffiti can be more polished. and Dazed and Confused a lot more au naturel and have that documentary aspect. And I can see that from that perspective. Oh, it's just a day in the life, and a day, a night in the life, and stupid teenagers will be stupid teenagers, and they will arrive at nothing. I just think that you can still, within that, you can still explore a lot more of the car, the weed, the handshakes. It's so, to me, and if you did that, to me, it would be a lot more fulfilling, because those are elements. It's what him from the get-go, both in American Graffiti and in Dazed and Confused, is what readily identifies this world, and the prom, and I think they are there, but they don't really continue there, progress, they don't remain present, and I think that would give to me a real bigger flavor of the film. That's what I saw confirmed in American Graffiti. American Graffiti is not exactly a traditional classical narrative film, and it does pick up on those things, and it does explore them. And so to me, on that aspect, just because it creates a more concrete atmosphere in the way of what is the prom, what does it signify to these people, what are the cars, it stays with those elements, that it's more rich in that aspect. Dazed and Confused could still be what it is, like you say, this diary, and really foment these elements without losing them. I think it loses them a bit in a way.
But would you say that American Graffiti has a 3-act structure? Can you identify something like that in there?
Yeah, I think I can.
Because I don't think here you can, for example.
I think here you can.
I would say that has to do with the different contexts. Right, you have George Lucas comes out of the new Hollywood type of filmmaking, which is a breaking from classic Hollywood, but still very ingrained in the structure of those films.
The studio didn't want to make the film, surprisingly, because they thought no one is going to watch this with this parallel story. What you're talking about, and really, I want to see more of George Lucas from before Star Wars. I want to see the George Lucas who made.
Wait, wasn't he in school with all these like Scorsese and?
Well, he was part of the pack.
He said he doesn't love directing all that much.
He doesn't. I think
he doesn't like it that much. Even though he's good, I think he's an okay director, especially in his other films, from what I've heard. But Dazed and Confused comes out of the independent scene of the '90s, and that
in
that
itself,
Linklater,
setting.
That Linklater himself kind of birthed, not alone, but kind of the Slacker was very much the turning point. Like guys like Kevin Smith saw it and were like, okay, we can make dumb shit like this.
I mean, and Linklater never lost that sort of independent spirit. I mean, even his most mainstream film that would be Boyhood. I mean,
I would say it's School of Rock.
Oh yeah,
School of Rock. Yeah.
I completely forgot that's his.
Yeah.
But okay, let's think of Boyhood as his most sort of
most renowned.
Renowned. Even that film is really just different from anything we'd probably ever seen. So you just have to expect different different approaches. If you're talking about Linklater and more independent film, and not really hold its sort of traditional, maybe not completely traditional, but some extent traditional views, like the third act thing. I mean, this film doesn't have 3 acts. It doesn't even have 2. I think just one thing going, and
I think it's very impressive. Like for me, how engaging the film is in that regard.
Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah.
So structural, but there is.
It may have 3 acts, but it's so sophisticated in the way that it embeds it that you don't see it. Probably,
what would be the climb? I guess so.
That can be,
But I don't know. I feel like the film is constantly, what I recognize that the film is constantly doing is like setting up something for later. Like there's something else that's gonna happen, and so we're in this constant state of, there's gonna be a party.
That's a good way to
Party
describe
is
it,
fucked.
I think, yeah.
There's something else. He's got the beer. The Matthew McConaughey are. So we're going to the woods. There's the whole bullying thing, the whole hazing thing that immediately we're looking forward to it. There's this constant forward moving thing, and it's the last day, so compressing it to that time frame also gives immediately something that we expect. It's the last day. They're probably gonna party. They're probably gonna fucking go wild, whatever.
And even if you think about the sort of the party as a sort of climax, we have hints of it. I mean, we know it's gonna happen, and so it seems like it's building up towards that. Like that would be our third act main marker. But then the party gets canceled, and it becomes this really just completely off to the side normal forest hangout, which is like, I mean, and you still make it interesting. Um,
And one thing that I did find interesting in the film as well is that you have all this shit going on, this stupidity of other teenagers, and meanwhile, you every now and then you come back to this trio of teenager commentators,
Oh,
let's say.
the wine drinking,
Yeah.
yeah, I love them. They're awesome.
So that guy appears on Friends, and
Yeah,
he's
he
a
does,
really
he
interesting
does.
character.
Yeah.
He's really funny. Yeah.
And he's like, if they are in this bubble of their own in this car, kind of in this separate from everybody else, always in this car. While everybody else is kind of outside, more or less, they are always constantly in this car throughout the film, kind of just commenting. Don't you think? What do we do? It's just horrible, and the system is crazy. It's just saying this stuff, you know.
Yeah, he literally like when they're bullying the air raids, right? They're doing the air raids, and they're commenting. We cut to them, and they're like so, like, there's people just kind of accept this, right? Even the adults, even if they don't accept it, they just look away. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And it is like they're just a ritualized fucking bullying session. It's not even bullying, like it's more close to hazing, right? The university shit, but I think makes more sense in the high school context because it's a very, I would say, kind of caveman-like understanding of creating a connection. It's like very strange.
Yeah, it is strange because it's like these dual feelings of at the same time you get this bullying and hazing that's kind of intense all throughout, but then the film has this sort of light atmosphere where every character seems to be laughing constantly, like smiling and everything.
And there's like a code, like sometimes they seem to understand, like we can't go that far. Like when they put the girl on her knees and the other guy's making very like explicitly sexual comments, and the girl is like, "You asshole, come on!" And like she's protecting the girl or whatever. Or when the other girl is like, "I just want you to know that I also did this when I was afraid, but whatever." Then he's like, "Okay, fry bacon."
Yeah, it's like they all understand each other instinctively, immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like sort of consensual, especially among the girls. The boys is like they're getting fucking tortured. It's fucking wild.
I really love the payoff with Ben Affleck. He's the asshole, and then he gets what he deserves.
No one likes him. Even the other, like when he first comes, you guys immediately start like backing away. Oh, I gotta go go away. They just leave. No one likes him clearly.
There's this really funny bit where I don't remember the guy's character's name, but I mean, it's one of those sort of senior blonde cool kids that. It's right in the beginning of the film where he goes to the class like at the door, and he's trying to call someone's attention, and he does this really weird face, like kind of sexualizing the whole situation. And then the teacher appears out of nowhere, and he goes all straight.
But then he hits on the teacher.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the teacher isn't on the joke. She kind of pats his head and goes away. It's just that.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and they all understand each other.
If it was a Portuguese school and you did that, you'll be like detention or something. It's just you'll be punished for it. It's not. But anyway, it's interesting to see the dichotomy between the two realities.
Yeah, the harmony between everyone, even if it's very contentious. They appear in a fucking truck to the junior high, so these senior, they start speaking on a megaphone or whatever it is. We're gonna lick you.
Yeah, it's surreal. And the teacher is like,
the teacher is laughing. Oh yeah. It's like he tells the story about Vietnam or whatever.
Yeah.
25 of you ain't coming back. It's like, Jesus Christ, they're kids.
It's like, anyway. Yeah.
I thought the acting wasn't great, but now towards the end of this, I thought because the main kid, he has like this stick. He's always putting like he's doing this, and it's so forced.
I was doing
And
this myself. I was
Yeah.
doing this myself.
And I
during
thought,
the
oh,
film,
he's just a bad actor. But then I like, okay, maybe he's a bad actor, but also it worked. He's like he's a kid. He's trying to be more mature and like,
yeah.
oh,
I
he did
thought
that. They did that to the kid. Oh, that's so bad. Whatever.
And even if he is an actor, that's sort of a non-actor thing to do, like a amateur performance or documentary style thing where trying to emulate reactions and feelings, but it always seems a bit off. But I think it really works.
Yeah, it works because it just seems like an awkward kid, which he is. So it works.
Which is
one thing to talk about in terms of how far does American Graffiti go and Dazed and Confused in terms of exploring the elements. For example, you do have this archetypal figure of the guy who is still binded to this school universe in the shape of Ben Affleck, and then in the mega ultra shape of Matthew McConaughey. Because these are the guys who are far out but still are connected, and who should be already working.
Ben Affleck is like he what's it called? Chumbo one, like he missed one.
Once or twice or something.
Yeah, once or twice he flunked. But Matthew McConaughey, like, you should be doing your taxes, man. Like, what are you doing here? You are teen-year-olds.
I mean, for example, in American Graffiti, there's this character. He's exactly fulfilling the same role, but the beautiful, tasty thing about it, for example, his car, it's a half car. It's a car that in the 60s, it doesn't fit. It's a car from the 50s, probably old from his dad, and he has the engine showing. As he drives around town, he tries to pick up girls. He cannot pick up girls because he's a schmuck, so he looks like this tough guy. But it's interesting to see this contrast between, yes, he's a tough guy, he should be cool, but it's kind of his aspiring date of coolness has run out. So he's no longer the cool guy. But there's specificity about it, the way his car looks, and him trying to still race other guys. He tries to race Harrison Ford, who is some, guy who out of town who comes in and tries constantly racing him and provoke him. And so there is a specific exploration of that, while in Dazed and Confused it's more simple. It's just Ben Affleck, the car. There's nothing particular about it. So it's just archetypal. While in this American Graffiti, I thought there was something really specific about it. They really thought about how this car should look and how this car, that is his comments upon who he is as a person.
I mean, if you think that Linklater got inspired by his own high school experience and his own colleagues at the time, you get a sense that okay, maybe it is sort of cliche characters or sort of the archetypal characters of high school kids and the senior who flunked and whatever. But I mean, these people exist and these experiences exist. I mean,
but it's the thing. Sorry, yeah.
No, just adding that. I mean, I think it's better to, with this character that are like this, just be honest and sort of have a direct approach like he does, where it kind of seems like it's like no sugarcoating, just what it is, rather than something else that may be I don't know, a little non-genuine to the whole experience.
Then we come to the question, which is an interesting one, of the distinction between fiction and reality. Should we go for something that is, I mean, because fiction,
you go
even when you're trying to be, I mean, even when you try to express yourself in the means of realism, like fiction has in like being a realistic film, we're talking about raw realism. You're still fictionalizing some things. You're still, having a work of fictional construction around the reality that you find interesting, because just reality on itself, I don't know. Although, I do understand where you're coming from, and that this aspect of the documentary aspect of Dazed and Confused, and just really accepting that teenagers are stupid fuck-ups at times, and you're just seeing a day and the night in the life of these guys, and that oftentimes teenagers just pick up on the next thing. When the party is out, what's the next big thing? Oh, the beer, going to the woods, and just piling on itself, developing this forward moving energy. That in itself is interesting, I do admit it. I just think that there's still space for this effort in being specific about this character, which I found that he lacked a bit, but that's just where I'm coming from.
I mean, I suppose, but it's hard, I think, and I definitely, I mean, I'm not saying American Graffiti doesn't do its thing badly, or that it does its thing badly. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying it does something different, and we can really hold Dazed and Confused to the same structural premises and character premises that we have for American Graffiti, because they're just not
Yeah.
going for the same thing.
I think the intention is, I haven't watched American
Never
Graffiti,
seen
but the
American
intention,
Graffiti.
no, but from what you described, it seems the intention is kind of different. I've watched Everybody Wants Some, which is a Linklater film, very much in the same nature as Dazed and Confused. And I thought it was just as good, maybe a little less good. Yeah, I think it's a matter of intent. Like, I don't think Linklater, he really just wants to try to capture a natural, like them in their natural state. And I don't think he's trying to be realistic necessarily, but just like be as natural as possible about teenagers and how, you know, the things they care about are very superficial, very yeah, again, like caveman like gotta get beer, we gotta get girls, we gotta kiss, shit like that.
Let's say it like this. I'll frame it like this. I do agree that I do think that the films are similar. They have commonalities in the sense of their structure. They do, of the parallel story of this different group of teenagers going on their ways, and you see different parts of it, and you have the same elements of the cars, that affirmation power, but the intentions are different. That's correct. I think the intentions are different. I think the way the dialogue, is expressed is different. Although, and in Linklater, I think that he's really going for just the natural side of it and portraying these kids as mere kids who say and do stupid things. That's fine, and there's a lot more meandering or wandering with them. And I love how you express this idea of these things piling on themselves. There's a party, there's not, then they move on to the next attraction. That's all good. I just think that you can have that, and yet really make an effort of thinking, how can I make these characters a little bit more interesting in their composition? I'm not even saying have a whole dramatic dialogue between two characters. I don't care, and that's not the thing. When I talk about a car being specific, that's a car being specific, but it tells me something about someone. That's what happens. That's what happens with that specific character in American Graffiti. And it's just a car, but it's a very specific car. There was someone thought as they were writing it about how do I show this. So that's what I mean to say.
Yeah,
Although
but I think I would say that like there are specificities, but like they come mostly at the peripheries of. I think like in terms of what you're saying, it's specific like objects and certain traits of how they are and how they act. Yeah, the film is missing a bit of detail probably, but there's also like little moments where the camera is just shooting and you see, like, even though the focus is on these two characters, imagine, right? The other actors are still doing like stuff and they're still interacting and there's still like little details. And sometimes, like for example, when the kid throws the bowling ball out the window.
Yeah.
Remember? Like there, I didn't note. Like I went back to see that scene, and I only noticed like the guy that's driving like puts his hand back and gives him like a not a fist bump, but gives him a handshake. But it's like very much on the edge of the image. It's almost missing. But like it's a little detail where you see so a connection there being formed. There's also when they're entering the car, and the other guy is the weed guy, which is I would say is probably I think he's way too bland as a character. Yeah, but the weed guy says,
I think he affects me a lot. He's way too bland in the film.
But he says like, "Oh, I'm giving you the shotgun, but don't forget it, man. Don't forget it, whatever." But the camera is no longer even focused on them. But we see the other guy like confer like making funny faces to him or whatever. Like I think the movie always has these little details of interaction.
Yeah, and I mean, I really took as the character being the whole thing, the whole high school, the whole class. I mean, if you interpret it like that, I mean, I think it's well done. It's well, it's a good characterization because it's this whole day, it's this whole set of people and at this time and having these experiences. And so yeah, I mean, if you think about it like that, I think it's we really get a sense of what it is, this group of people and these experiences that they share. And yeah, it does mean that each person individually might be a little underdeveloped. Although you do have a lot of characters with very identifiable traits.
It has a lot more characters to follow than American Graffiti. Although you do
Yeah.
have a parallel story, you do have a lot more characters to follow.
And that's kind of a, not a blessing in disguise, the reverse. I mean, a kind of a shortcoming of of having parallel montage. It's hard to have meaningful sort of arcs with every character because you're constantly shifting between what someone is doing. I remember you guys remember Shortcuts by Altman. I mean, I like that film, but at the same time, so many characters, so many stories constantly shifting. I mean, it was hard to really connect with characters specifically, and you sort of sense that here as well. That, I mean, as a group, you really get a sense of who these characters are, but at the same time, specifically, you don't really connect with that at a huge emotional level.
That's it's interesting that you pick up on that film because that's one film where like you said, I don't particularly connect with the characters, but what I do like is kind of the orchestration of the story. So maybe that's your angle for Dazed and Confused as well. It's the orchestration of the story and his intention rather than connecting with the characters in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I feel the same way about First Cuts actually. Yeah, I don't remember thinking like any specific character I love, but the whole thing functioned together, very oiled, very well oiled. And I think the same applies here with Dazed and Confused. It's very commendable the way we jump from characters. Like the whole ecosystem functions very well. So it's a very well-oiled machine. That you see someone with them, like with, you see a little group, but then another group, and like there's overlaps between the groups, and I think that's very interesting. It's not just completely isolated groups, and we go to each of them and see how they're doing, but like there's an overlap. There's a living, breathing world there.
Yeah.
We need to talk about Matthew McConaughey.
I think we do need to talk about the McConaughey. At least we need to start.
The first, all right of his career.
Yeah, of course. I think we need to become, all of us, we need to become 3 Matthew McConaughey's and start having this review in McConaughey style.
No,
so what did you
I've
think?
only perfected you like her if you did.
Yeah. You need that Texas whisper talking like this all the time,
And it's sort of like bland, sort of weed riddled demeanor and face, like saying that, like you feel like he's not thinking, just weed all over his head. I mean,
I think the characterization is great. Like the hair is like very
the
weird.
that hair.
He does not fit in with because the other dudes, the hair is all. Funky.
He's the mega guy who is still connected to that world and shouldn't be. Has that little stash. He's the only guy who has a stash, I think.
What about Ben Affleck? Doesn't he have?
No, he doesn't have. He's still pubescent.
Yeah, he looks like a boy in a man's body.
Jesus Christ, you just butchered him.
But no, McConaughey, the character, very strange. I never realized how creepy he was.
The pink, what is it? Pink shirt, pink pants, something like that. Just
I think it's it's like a white shirt and pink pants.
Yeah, but that's just 70s quirky.
Yeah, but it's 70s, but at the same time, it's not just 70s. Like it's a guy who's from before, who's trying to connect with the 70s kids.
Sure.
But can't. But he can't. I mean, he can't connect. They like him. I think they're like fine with him. But at the same time, they understand that he's a little weird. You're gonna go to jail sometimes, man. Like these high school girls, they stay the same age.
And the whole thing with the redhead.
That comment, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The whole thing with the redhead, it's like my favorite color or something. I don't know what it says.
Yeah. They stay the same age.
The older I get.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's
it's so wrong. That's all for today, folks. If you'd like to reach out and suggest a film for the next episode, you can find us on the podcast official Instagram and Facebook pages. Thanks for listening and see you next time.